So we'll wait for the couple join, and then we'll just in this part here is the old school room. That's, yeah, it's the same building, but yeah, that's the old school room there. Yeah. Yeah. Right, so I will flip it now. Right, so today I'm at the exhibition, the Edgar Wood exhibition in Middleton. This is at Long Street Methodist Church in Middleton, which is a building that Edgar Wood designed. It's built in finished in 1901, and today, as part of Heritage Open Days, there is an exhibition of artwork on in here. So I'm going to walk in and I'll give you the tour. And I'm doing this really for posterity more than anything else, because I've been involved in arranging the exhibition that's on. But yeah, I just thought I'd show you around. So I just walked in here, and this is, I will flip it now, so you don't have to see. This is Steve, by the way, say hi. Hi. Steve Whitworth. Okay, so I'm going to flip this now, and then we can see where we are here. Okay, so walking in and check out the little details here. Arts and crafts, Edgar Wood, and we're going to walk in now. So it's actually a bit quieter now than it's been earlier on, it was packed out earlier. It's busy now, but we're going to have a walk in. Hi guys. You alright? That's Jeff and Maureen. And so this is the Edgar Wood Church, the main part of the building here, as you can see. Okay, and we're going to now look at the exhibition, which is on at the moment. So we're going to start off here, and I'll tell you about this. So Edgar Wood was born in 1860 in Middleton, died in 1935. He had a very good friend called Frederick Jackson, who was an artist. He was born in 1859, died in 1980. Now they both lived in Middleton, and in their early days they would go on painting trips together around the town. And so this painting here, this first painting in the exhibition, is quite interesting because it's a really rare early survivor by Frederick William Jackson. It's actually a painting of a Middleton scene. It's a watercolour. It's dated 1876. So Jackson would have been about 16 when that was painted. So it's really early work, and it's nice to see that. And you can imagine sort of Edgar Wood's being stood next to Jackson, possibly, you know, maybe when he was out visiting and sort of noted this scene. We've also managed to locate the actual building, which is this here. So you can see the side of that there, and here, and there's the bit of reflection going on. But that's the painting there, and on the back of the painting there is also another painting on the back, on the reverse, which is another scene. It's at Staithes in Middleton, Staithes Hall, and it's a barn there. It's now been demolished. It was demolished years ago, but that's nice early work and an early example of a painting of Middleton, really. They were lifelong friends, Fred Jackson and Edgar Wood, to the point that when Jackson died, he died in 1918. Wood outlived him until 1935. When Jackson died, his actual gravestone was designed by Edgar Wood, by his friend. He designed his gravestone, which is that there. And that gravestone there is in the cemetery in Middleton, in Borshaw, and that's Fred Jackson's gravestone designed by Edgar Wood. And there's the two guys there. So that's Fred Jackson on the left, Edgar Wood on the right. And so that's the start of the exhibition. Then we start talking about the architecture, because one thing I did forget to say is that Edgar Wood was born to a very wealthy family. His dad was a cotton mill owner in the town, extremely wealthy, and he didn't really like the idea of Edgar Wood becoming an artist, which is what Edgar Wood wanted to be. And so they settled on him becoming an architect. And so he went off, and that's what he did. He was articled to a company in Manchester, and he ended up training and becoming an architect and setting up his own practice. Frederick Jackson, meanwhile, as well, he was wanted to be an artist as well, and he was allowed to become an artist, and he became an artist. That's what he did. He's probably the most well-known artist from Middleton, and we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But this part here is talking about Edgar Wood's architectural career. There's various buildings. Middleton has the biggest concentration of buildings by Edgar Wood. There's loads of buildings in Middleton by Edgar Wood. There's also his other concentration. There's a number of works in Hale in Cheshire. There's also quite a number of works in Lindley in Huddersfield, and that's through family connections that he had over there. Edgar Wood, he got quite a few commissions over in Lindley, including the clock tower in Lindley, if you're familiar with it. He designed that as well as a number of large buildings in the town. So this is an actual building in Cheshire, in Hale, called Royd House, and you can see modernist looking building there. And these paintings here are of Edgar Wood's garden in Middleton. That's an original oil painting there, which is in the collection of the Edgar Wood Society. That is a print of a painting that's in Manchester Art Gallery's collection. And so the same place, it's Edgar Wood's house in Middleton, Redcroft in Middleton, that's the garden. And then we move on here to designs for the church that we're actually standing in right now. So these are the designs for the church. And these are brilliant to see. These are great survivors, this. And these are architectural, his drawings, his sketches of the church. I'm actually stood in. I'm stood about there, in there somewhere at the moment. Yeah, and so that's the complex, and there's a watercolour of the same site. And then we move on to, he jumps ahead a little bit now, because that kind of talks about his architectural career. There's various bits of information on here, but we move on then to his passion for travel, because Edgar Wood, when he retired in the early 1920s. He went off and did his grand tour. He retired, he was very wealthy, his dad had died, left a load of money to Edgar Wood. It was, the war had finished, the First World War. His best friend Fred Jackson had died, and so Edgar Wood thought, right, well, I want to retire now. So he retired in the early 1920s and he went travelling around the world. And so a lot of these paintings depict the time he was travelling. And this one here is Italy. Edgar Wood actually retired to Italy, and he made his own house in Italy, designed his own house in Italy, and went to live in Italy. And that's where he died, in Italy, actually, in 1935. There's a picture of Venice. All of these paintings here, the originals, in these wooden frames that you see, these are owned by the Edgar Wood Society. And this is the first time they've all been exhibited together as a body of work. That is a design for Edgar Wood's house in Italy, and there is a view of the garden in Italy, in Porto Maurizio in Italy. And then this is a pastel. I do like Edgar Wood's pastels. The light coming through is quite bright here, not great with the camera, but that's an interesting pastel. That's Egypt, as one in Egypt, and that was actually the latest acquisition for the society. We only got that in the last 12 months, really. And that was just somebody who contacted us. That's how the society can sometimes acquire works. People might offer them to the society, and we've preserved this body of work of Edgar Wood original artwork. Then we move on to Frederick William Jackson, who was Edgar Wood's best friend. And so these are a couple of original Fred Jackson paintings. One of the reasons that Fred Jackson is quite famous is because he was a founder member of the Staithes group in North Yorkshire. And so that's quite interesting in itself. Staithes group was a group of about 40 artists who went over to the fishing village of Staithes in the sort of North Yorkshire coast and painted amongst the fishermen and settled there. And so, he was a founder member of the Staithes group, which is really interesting, and you can learn all sorts about the Staithes group, amazing group of artists. This little section here, these are two watercolours by an artist, an architect rather, who was articled to Edgar Wood, his first pupil, a guy called Godfrey Albert Edward Schwab, or known as Bertie Schwab, and he was born in Eccles in 1877, and in 1893 he became a pupil, the first pupil articled to Edgar Wood. The story is that Wood encouraged, with the first task that he was given in the office, Schwab by Wood, was paint up all the flowers, which he did. And he was a student, worked with Edgar Wood and the guy who Edgar Wood worked with, James Henry Sellers, until 1910. And then he moved down to Devon, in Broughton in Devon, where he lived, and set up his own practice there. And these are original watercolours by Schwab, and you don't usually see these. Very, very rare to see them, actually. So that's great, and they're actually dated as well. Tons of reflection, I do apologise. That's August 16th, 1921, and that's August 1925, that tree there, and they're cool. So that's good to see them. And then, just point out this arts and craft table as well, which I absolutely love. Look at that, that's beautiful. Yeah. Oh, and just to let you know, we do know that Edgar Wood also travelled to Staithes as well, and in that area, because there is a house in Hinderwell, which is just down the road from Staithes. In fact, Hinderwell is where Frederick Jackson lived, and there's a house at Hinderwell that has been attributed to being by Edgar Wood. It's called the Croft. It's at Hinderwell, and it was actually built by Edgar Wood for one of the Staithes group's artists, which is is quite interesting. Henry Silkstone Hopwood, who was one of the Staithes artists, and that is a photograph there of the house. Okay, so head over to the other side of the exhibition now. The building is absolutely amazing, by the way, but just show you some of the bits and pieces there. And I think This here was by Sterling Lee, I think, this beautiful sculpture on the font. And here, look at this, and a few of the traditional arts and craft roses. All Edgar Wood designs the building itself. This is, and some bits up there as well. And then we'll head over to the other side of the exhibition. Now, the first couple of pictures that you find here on the other side of the exhibition are by Dame Laura Knight, one of the most loved artists in Britain, in my opinion. Well, maybe other people's opinion as well. But she was, fantastic artist. She was born in 1877, died in 1970, and she was also a member of the Staithes group, and that's the connection as to why she's in this exhibition. Whether or not she knew Edgar Wood, don't know, possibly, but she certainly knew Frederick William Jackson. In fact, there's a photograph of Dame Laura Knight on the beach at Brunswick Bay. She's there, and people say that the guy stood up there with the easel is Frederick Jackson. But I'm not 100% sure, it could be, but that's what the story is. And so they definitely knew each other. In fact, Laura Knight wrote about Jackson in her biography as well, in her autobiography. So these two paintings here are interesting because they're portraits of a guy called Malcolm who was a circus roustabout, and there's one there, that's in Conti crayon, and that one's in charcoal there. And if you look here, look familiar, that painting there is in the Royal Academy collection, the Royal Academy's permanent collection. And underneath here is a photograph of Laura Knight in her studio, and if you can just make out the painting that she's stood next to is that painting there. And that painting there, which dates to circa 1966, was 100% the painting that was made from that drawing. Hooray! And so that drawing here that's the original there, which is alongside it, which is really nice to have in the exhibition. And they're that's the same subject, the same guy, Malcolm. Apparently these date from years earlier. That's what I was told from the estate anyway, that the drawings date from many decades before the oil was made. But yeah, that's that. Move over here now. This is a James William Booth, who was another Staithes group member. He was also from Middleton, which is where we are now, by the way, Middleton, in Greater Manchester. And he was another Staithes group artist, and that's probably maybe the Moors or something. Again, sorry about the reflection. I really like that one. That's a watercolour. There's a print of a Fred Jackson at Brunswick Bay painting, which is in Touchstone's Rochdale's collection. And then we move over to this part of the exhibition. Steve, where are you? So the guy there, who's just hiding, that's Steve Whitworth, and this is a collection of his paintings here, which is... Steve! We managed to get into the exhibition. So yeah, there's a full exhibition of Steve Whitworth's original paintings here. Steve is mega prolific, and he's a great artist from Middleton, and he depicts the town, and you can see that there is here. And then loads of these little acrylics that he's got here. And then I like this little series here. These are actually these are Edgar Wood properties he's actually depicted here in some of these, which I think are really cool. So excellent. These are Steve Whitworth. And there is the church just across the road from where we are now. That's the parish church, which is on the hill in Middleton, just across the road from us. That's like a really, ancient church. Really, that's excellent. And then some more Steves. And then walk through here, a bit more Steves there, and then a bit more on Frederick Jackson. And that's kind of the end of the exhibition, really. We do actually have a brief look here, because one other connection with Edgar Wood and Frederick Jackson was that Fred Jackson did a number of friezes in properties that Edgar Wood designed. There's only actually one surviving frieze in any house now. There was at least 5 that he did, and there's only one that survives, which is in a house in Lindley. Which is called Briar Court, and so that's a photograph of me with a beard at Briar Court. That's prior to the frieze being restored. It has now been cleaned and restored. And then this is something that doesn't survive any longer, sadly, which is a chapel in Middleton, a church in Middleton, and that there is a frieze that was done by Jackson, and that's an Edgar Wood building, and that's been since sadly knocked down. So that's kind of the end of the exhibition as it stands. Today we have the additional thing that's happened, which is Touchstones in Rochdale have brought some artworks to show us, which are original paintings by Fred Jackson and a one by Edgar Wood as well. So I'll just have a quick look at that.
What's like that? Put you in contact with EQL,
And then this one here, which is great. That was original. That's the parish church across the road. That's a Frederick William Jackson painting from 1900, and that was originally kept in the library over the road from where we are now, and then was taken up to Rochdale in 1974 to be exact, which is 50 years to the day, to the year. And it's back in Middleton for the first time really in 50 years. So it's really nice to see that today, because I don't think I've ever seen it in the flesh. So yeah, and it actually looks like, because you can, as it looks now. That's literally a contemporary photograph of the same location, and there it is there. And then there's this lovely little aisle, and that's another Frederick Jackson. That's Middleton Wakes.
Events like this to show people.
Really like that one.
You might be interested in this. We've got a megalodon too. Have you watched The Meg? No, but.
And that's it. And yeah, I mean, I could take you into the other part of the building, but I can't, unfortunately, because there is a wedding on. I might just try and sneak through and have a quick gander actually outside now, so you can get a quick look at it. But into the garden area, because there is a school side of the building as well, which is through there. But look at that. And that's all. Amazing. Yeah, that side of the building there, it's closed off today because there is a wedding on. But you can come tomorrow, which is, it's open Sunday tomorrow for the final day, and you will be able to get into that side of the building because there's no wedding on. But yeah, there you go. How gorgeous is that? And it's a nice day as well today. So we're open till 4 o'clock today, and then tomorrow we're open 1, which is Sunday. We're open 1 till 4. Yeah, and it's the Long Street Methodist Church in Middleton. Check it out, and yeah, okay. Hope you enjoyed that, and I can blather on for ages longer, but I'll call it a day. Okay. Thank you very much. Ta-ra.